And welcome to Lunchtime Politics on Channels Television. I'm Millicent Walker. On the news this hour, Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo is asking Nigeria's elites to speak up on issues of unity in the country, seeking ideas on resolving challenges. The Nigerian Labour Congress is asking for a downward review of wages of political office holders. Plus, one person reported dead in the lingering Oyo State local council crisis. Welcome everyone to the programme. Let's begin with matters of national security, and we kick off from the hallowed chambers of the Nigerian Parliament. The Senate has admitted the Inspector General of Police, Mr. Mohammed Adamu, into the chamber to brief lawmakers on the nation's security challenges. Now, the session is being held behind closed doors. Recall that last week, the Senate summoned Mr. Adamu following the state of insecurity in the country. Mr. Adamu is expected to address lawmakers on the concept and practical implementation modalities of community policing policy. In the meantime, in the lower chamber, Speaker of the House of Representatives is hopeful of a commitment from the service chiefs on the improvement of security in the country. This was the position of the Speaker when he made an appearance at the meeting between the House Committee on Defense and the service chiefs. So let's get more on what's happened today at the National Assembly. Our correspondent Terry Kumi is live for us. Terry.
Well, hello, Millicent. Yes, as you rightly pointed out, the Inspector General of Police is meeting behind closed doors with the Senate, and that meeting's been on for about an hour then. Now, he stepped into the chamber at about 11:04 a.m., and we're waiting to see the details of that. It's not unconnected with insecurity, as you rightly pointed out, on the spate of killings. And speaking about insecurity and the spate of killings, earlier today, the House Committee on Defense met with the service chiefs, and the Speaker made an appearance, and he told them that he had to be there because of the importance of the situation. And this is quite interesting, considering that a few days ago, the House passed a resolution calling for the resignation of the service chiefs, and they also called for a meeting, which was quite dicey at the time, questioning how they would call for a meeting with the service chiefs and still call for their resignation. We understand also that Inspector General of Police is likely to meet with the House Committee on Police over the accidental discharge by his men, and also that of the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps.
Before we let you go, you talked about the implementation of modalities of community policing, but is there also going to be talk about Amotekun and the legal framework, and perhaps also what the Southeast governors are asking for?
I think for some reason that hasn't come up yet on the floor of both chambers. I recall that I had a conversation with a lawmaker on the side, and he said that it was important for community policing to be put in place. There's actually a motion on the floor of the House of Representatives on the need for the police to implement community policing, which is not the same thing as the Amotekun or regional policing as some of the other state governors are canvassing for. As a matter of fact, an article here, the motion that will be read on the floor here, a portion of it says, recall the publication in the Daily Trust newspaper of September the 3rd, where the Inspector General of Police stated that the President had approved the implementation of a new community police policy. And according to the mover of this motion, it's necessary that crime is prevented rather than attacked when it does happen.
All right, thank you so much, Terry Kumi, our correspondent there at the National Assembly. Let's move to the charge by the number 2 man in the country, the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, on the state of the nation. The Vice President says there is an urgent need for Nigerian elites to speak up on issues of national unity. He's asking those he refers to as Nigeria's policy elites to raise their voices loud enough in matters of national concern and public discourse, especially regarding issues of national unity. Professor Shibajo continued to say that while politicians will be in office for a time, the policy intellectual elite will always be around and should not leave public discourse to politicians. In a statement from his media office, the Vice President says, I think that this question of national unity is one that we must look at very carefully and must prefer ideas and solutions to issues. In the meantime, the President of Senate, Ahmed Lawan, at Tuesday's plenary inaugurated an ad hoc committee to look into the current security architecture of the country and recommend ways to improve the present security situation. Last week, the Senate resolved to set up the ad hoc committee after exhaustive deliberations on the security situation. The President of Senate asked the committee to be rigorous in their assignment to deepen the understanding of the nature of the security crisis, also have a realistic assessment of the problem, and indeed provide workable solutions. Senator Lawan also asked security agencies to give all the necessary cooperation for the committee to discharge its duties effectively. The committee is headed by Senate leader Senator Yahya Abdullahi. Others include Senator Ayin Naya Baribe, Senator Ibikunle Amosu, among others. Let's look at some labour matters now. The Ogun State government and organised labour, they finally agreed on the payment of 30,500 naira as monthly minimum wage for workers in the state, with effect from the 1st of January. Briefing journalists at the state office of the Nigeria Labour Congress in the state capital, Chairman of the union, Mr. Emmanuel Bankole, said both parties also agreed on the consequential adjustment of 27% for grade level and the others across. While commending the state government for the gesture, the state chairman, however, charged the workforce to reciprocate by effective service delivery for the socio-economic transformation of the state. Well, the story is different, a few kilometers away from Ogun State, and this is in KWARA State, where the Labour leaders, they've given 14 days, and that's an ultimatum, to the KWARA State governments to implement the new minimum wage or face industrial unrest. In an interview with Channels Television, both the state vice chairman of the Nigeria Labour Congress, the chairman of the Trade Union Congress, say the government is not sincere with the plight of workers. Despite shifting grounds, they added that the government officials at the meeting were not ready to yield, which led to the walking out during the meeting. The ultimatum started on January 31st and will end the 20th of February, failure which the workers say they will decide on the next line of action.
14 days ultimatum,
Well, still on labour issues, the NLC, they've called on the federal government to consider a downward review of salaries for political office holders. This is coming on the heels of plans by the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission to review the wages of politicians. The president of the NLC, Mr. Ayuba Waba, who spoke at a news conference in Abuja, insists that the existing gap in the wages of political office holders, those of civil servants, is already wide, that any upward review will be insensitive. The Workers' Union also criticizes the federal government for what it describes as inability to address the insecurity in the country.
I was thinking that review can be upward or downwards. And in the case of our political office holder, it should be downwards, so that we can be at the same level because we go to the same market. They should also have be on the same margin of 30,000. And then you look at specific allowance or special allowances. That's what is done in other climes. There must be justification to arrive at a wage. Equal pay for work of equal value. That's the position of ILO.
So let's discuss the matter and its implications. Joining me from our Abuja studio is the former Minister of Transportation, Mr. Ibrahim Biye. We'd like to welcome you to the program. I must ask, what are your thoughts with regards to the downward review of salaries of politicians? Do you agree with the NLC on that?
Thank you, Melissa. I think I partially agree because the cost of living in Nigeria is very high. If politicians are more comfortable than the rest populace of the society, certainly it doesn't augur well for peace and good governance of the country. To me, I believe it's not only in salaries that Nigeria needs to address. There are other wastages in the system that need to be globally addressed. The issue of security votes and the governors and the presidency, despite the fact of their high insecurity in the country. Secondly, the issue of high electoral turnout. Every 4 years, Nigeria goes into election with about, maybe the last election we had, 2019, we spent about $675 million US. And in the next 4 years, we spent such money. In 2015, we spent about $625 million US. All this contribute to high cost of governance in Nigeria. And I believe with the level of income in the country, a country that's budgeting about maybe 27 billion in a year US dollars, with a population of about 200 million, I think we need not only salaries to be cut, but we also need to explore other ways of generating revenue to sustain the high standard of living in Nigeria, and to improve the civil service or any other worker in the country. I think other measures, not only cutting of political office salaries, even the reduction in the cabinet is bloated. I think the recommendation of T.Y. Danjuma during the Presidential Advisory Committee, he recommended Nigeria should not be more than 18 ministries. And I think I concur with that. Having 42 ministries in this economic situation, I think is a bloated executive.
So now perhaps the next question is, will this see the light of day? We know the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission, it's not the first time that the body has dropped the hint of a review. In fact, they also said in their, I believe this was a retreat they held recently, that indeed this will be done this year. But the question is, reflecting the current realities of what Nigerians are going through.
I understand the Revenue and Fiscal Mobilization Committee is undergoing a tremendous pressure from all interest groups in order not to be affected. But certainly, they have no option. The country has got to a critical point whereby we cannot be playing the ostrich. We must face reality because the only source of income in Nigeria now is oil. There's no diversification in agriculture, in mining, and human capacity development. And if we continue to go the way we are going, whether we like it or not, a country that is using about 80% of its income on recurrent expenditure and only 20% on capital expenditure, definitely that society is going to be stagnated. Revenue mobilization must concur, and the political office holders must also, they have no choice because this is their reality. And I think I buy that all phases of the governance must be readdressed, rejigged, and we can't be doing the same thing and expect different outcome. We have to change the narratives. It's a high time for us to sit down as a people, irrespective of whether a politician or a civil servant, to face the reality, because this is the reality that's facing the country. For instance, South Africa, with a population of maybe 50 million, their budget of 2019 was about 116 billion US dollars, while Nigeria is only about 27 billion, with a population of 200 million. How can we continue to increase wages, whether for civil servants or political officers, without looking inwards to generate more funds and address the issue? Not only political office holders, but I believe even the cost of governance, even the civil service itself, we need to be rejigged because there are so many other civil servants that are there. A work that one person will do, about 5 people will be sitting in the office. So it's a whole issue that must be addressed. That's my take.
All right, we'd like to appreciate your time. Former Minister of Transportation, Mr. Ibrahim Bio, thank you so much for talking to us on the program. Still to come on Lunchtime Politics, we bring you more about what's happening in Oyo State, the local government crisis, as we hear one dead out of that. Details when we return.